All right, this is going to be a video where I just talk straight in to the camera. I don't have a script. I don't even really know exactly what I'm going to say other than the topic about the video, which is starting a business as a developer and really just talking about what that journey has been for me, right? And I don't recommend you do that. That's how I'm gonna start. I don't recommend that you start a business as a developer unless you really want to do your own thing, right? Like you really want to be enterprising and you really want to leverage your skill set to the max, right? Because when you're just a programmer and you go and you work at a corporate job and you do that from 9 to 5 and you do that year in, year out, somebody learned to monetize their skills, right? And that's the employer, that's the person that you're working for. They understand the value in your skills and that's why they pay you for them, right? But the thing is we offer the skills as developers, we offer the skills as technical professionals, but oftentimes we forget that we ourselves can monetize those skills outside of just the corporate realm, right? And that's what I've been really curious to pursue is the monetization of those skills. And part of it is what I do here on Tech Industry Analysis, which is talking about tech and using my lens as a software engineer to be able to explain stuff that I see in the field and give you heads up on trends before they occur. And I feel like I have a pretty good track record of that if you actually look back on the videos, right? It's just at the time, I think sometimes because I'm early on the trend, people don't think or don't find it being very relevant until it occurs and then stuff pops off. But either way, that's not the point. The point is that I've become very interested in how to get the most out of my skill set, and doing it in corporate is ultimately not the be all end all for me. And that's why I went down this route of monetizing my skill set. And it's not just on the channel, it's also sourcing for clients and web development projects, web design projects. And I have to say, it really has been the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Like, it's definitely harder than programming because programming is just so tangible. It's so logical, and there's a lot less ambiguity because everything has documentation. You can read about anything that you're stuck on, any problem that you have to figure out. Like there's definitely documentation for it. But for business, it's like there's a lot of information out there, but it's less tangible, right? I think it's more, in a way, it's much more dynamic, and it's much more revolved around people than I think we as programmers are accustomed to. And making that transition is pretty crazy because if you have your skills, that's one thing, but if you can't sell your skills as a service, in particular in programming, then I think that could be a challenge. And a lot of programmers also pursue the other route, which is to sell products, software products, right? SaaS, and that's the other route. And to me, that route seems cool, but it also seems very to me, it seems less practical than just offering my services on my own as a freelancer, and maybe potentially evolving that into an agency format. But that's just the route I took. Some guys will take the SaaS route, and that's awesome. I just rather be building other people's stuff on my own, and taking on those contracts myself. And that's kind of where it ends up going too, where a lot of times I think the deficiency in selling for programmers ends up making us dependent on other people to bring in clients or to have software to work on. And I think that's a huge tragedy because so much of the value that gets sold on these contracts, for, let's say, for example, for like a software development contract, is brought on by the engineers that build it, you know? So all I'm saying is that instead of having a sales guy uh, do that work for you and then, you know, him take a cut and then you take a cut, you could be the sales guy and you can be the engineer and then you take both cuts, you know? And I know that sounds kind of almost unrealistic if you're just like really, really into doing programming, but I do think sales ends up being a very worthy skill, and the translation of that in the digital space is digital marketing. So getting attention for your things is really, really important. And on the online, and ultimately, I guess where I'm headed with this is that as the industry continues to change, it is a tough route to go about it on your own, whether that's SaaS or you offering your technical services. But ultimately, I think the rigidness of corporate is a very difficult and almost like anxiety inducing thing for most engineers to stick with at this point because of the way that you're treated, of the fear from layoffs, the additional workloads that you get, stuff like that. So ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that doing business on your own in the way that things are turning, ultimately, and I mean this on a macro scale, ultimately, I think although more difficult, will give you the most amount of options to navigate a lot of challenge in the economy, in the environment around you, and I think that is completely and totally worth it. Although you do not get a return on your time immediately, and that's the essence of this video, is that it really takes a lot of effort, time, and energy to make your business substantive enough where you actually start making profit out of it. And not just that, but there is a long period, a long stretch where you might be working from the morning, the moment that you wake up in the morning to the moment that you go to bed, and you don't see anything from that. You know, it's not like people just automatically reach out to you or you automatically get a bunch of views on the video that you put out. It's like a lot of it is just kind of working in the dark, taking shots in the dark, and just putting your ear out to wait to hear if like you hit anything. You know, it's that right there is very difficult for, I think, your average person to bear, right? And that's why I really think if you're thinking about doing this on your own, if you're thinking about going and offering your services or building a product, to really take those things into consideration, because I think at least the old YouTube used to sell, you know, doing your own business as a liberating thing. And it definitely has its benefits, 110%. But it really is, I think, a false paradigm to look at it like that. And it's more about kind of picking your poison, you know. The corporate is going to be very difficult for its own reasons, and then doing your a business is going to be difficult for its own reasons. And there's not really an easy way out. Everything takes a substantive amount of time to build. And if I were to do this all over again, like truly, if I were to do this all over again, I would have started on my business sooner than later. And that's a difficult thing to say because I did learn a lot in corporate insofar as like my skill set and insofar as getting better at just being an engineer. But ultimately, the lessons that I'm learning now are perhaps the most valuable that I've learned in my entire life, because suddenly all the things that a business does, like sales, marketing, and lead generation, stuff like that, like all the stuff that is done at the front end of the funnel, I was completely ignorant of. And I think that hurts a lot when you have skills, but you don't know how to sell them, you know, and you don't know how to get clients to opt in to use those skills for their benefit. And that is very painful because you spend a lot of time programming and learning and educating yourself, and you don't have any money coming in because of it, right? So if you're out there right now and you want to actually like get out there and monetize your skills, it's totally possible. You just have to be willing to put in the time. And I'm not talking about a year, I'm talking about or even 2 years or even a few months. I'm talking about like half a decade to a decade to really like see this stuff bear fruit. And that's the kind of longevity uh, and long-term thinking that you have, I think, to make this actually profitable and beneficial to you, because there's just too many unknowns. There's just starting from scratch on businesses. There's just it's so much harder than programming because there's just so many unknowns, and you suck at so many things that it's going to take you a while to become competent in them, right? And to exceed in this space requires it just an obsessive amount of work, and I don't know how many people want to do that. I totally respect the desire to just want work-life balance, because that's not what you're going to get over here. You might get more freedom in terms of your schedule. You might get freedom in terms of who you work with. You might get more creative freedom, and those things to me matter so much. But to you, they might not matter as much as being able to, for it to be 5, and then you go and do your next hobby, and you're off the clock, And so it's different strokes, different folks, I guess is the saying. So it's not for everyone. But if you are that guy, like for sure, like go out and pursue it. I can only highly recommend it, because it's dope. It's dope, to look back at your life and really have something that you've built through your blood, sweat, and tears, and something that's successful. Even if the sands of time just wipe it all away, for your story, it would have been a really good story. Especially if you start from the bottom, if you start from zero, to take something from zero and then build something tangible, and then have that be profitable. That's a crazy feeling, So, and I can't even say that I've completely felt that. I mean, I think I felt that in like little smidgens, but there's so much more work to do. So if you like this kind of content, let me know. Hit a like, give a comment, or subscribe. Other than that, thank you guys for riding along with me since this channel began, and I really, really do appreciate it. And for all those who watch consistently, I miss you a lot. So thank you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.